Hey guys, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? I am coming to you with match week 15 of this Premier League season. Things are really starting to take shape now, and those of us who have been getting carried away, starting to see maybe that it's too soon. But those of us who've done this rodeo several times over, and I would like to think of myself in that camp, you start to see that the Premier League it's changing right in front of our eyes in terms of like competitive, physical, and sometimes tactical too. Because I think there's a big level of talent on the dugouts of each team now. I think you can count six, seven managers who don't manage the previous couple of champions who could take a job in the top six if Thomas Frank was to be fired by Spurs, which I don't think he should be, but like let's just say that was the case. I see no problem with Iraola or Marco Silva, Eddie Howe. Like, there's a lot of really good guys in the Premier League in the dugouts. Talk about Glasner at Palace. And I think that really, when you have a good level of talent as well on the pitch to match your coaching talent, yes, there may be tough times for certain teams, which is what I think I'm going to focus on. I think this particular week going into middle of January, the Premier League starts to be more attritional, more so than it is tactical and cleverness and all of these different things. All the teams now, including the ones that we're having one game a week, are having to play multiple games. And it's showing up in the score lines. We're seeing a lot more goals. I know it wasn't this game week, it was the midweek leading up to game week for 15. You had a couple of games, and a 9-goal game between City and Fulham. You had Leeds scoring 3 goals then, and they do it again against Liverpool, by the way, which, that was a 6-goal game between them and Liverpool this week. So the Premier League is really taking shape in terms of like the new status quo or the evolving or the evolution for Premier League into a new status quo. That's my view anyway. I think the Premier League is evolving, and a lot of the way we read results and the way we predict what's going to happen in games is fast becoming dated. That's my individual opinion, and I'm a fan who supports Arsenal, but like I will watch games now and think you really have to come with something, and then you add to that with the Premier League as well. You add the talent pool, and then you add the five subs, where some coaches are leaning into that a bit more than others, and it's showing. And yes, you may lose some points here and there. I'm hearing Chelsea fans and people who watch Chelsea more than I do saying Maresca rotates too much. As an Arsenal fan, I'm like, Ateta needs to rotate more. I think a lot of us are really trying to make sense of what we're looking at. Anyway, that's kind of like my intro, is that the Premier League landscape is shifting, and I think we are all catching up in terms of our analysis of what we're looking at. And I'm not saying it's all brand new, so you can still make, analysis that's based in experience and that's based in your own knowledge of the game, because football is still football. However, I think there are just too many games now that are hard to call, that you look dumb after every prediction week. I think at the moment we are learning that tactics are part of it, but durability is as much a part of it as anything else. Because if you can defend, you're in the game. For the first time, as long as I've watched the English Premier League, every team, including the ones that want to dominate the ball, are committed to defending. They're all committed to defending, because that's what really earns you, gives you the platform to build, and then give yourself the chance to go and win the game. Anyway, Matchweek 15 started horribly for me. I'm gonna share some. Started horrible for me because obviously I'm a Gooner and my boys didn't win. 2-1 loss at Aston Villa. The game was, for me, a good game for the people who like to say, for neutrals, this, that, and the other. I think it was a decent game if you're a neutral fan. I don't ever watch games neutrally, but sometimes I like to think that I do. And I think Arsenal, to be honest, struggled because, to an extent, I think they struggled because, like, you're going into another centre back pairing. I think Timber and Nkapie, in my view, did okay on the day. They did okay on the day, but I wonder if Arteta has thought at all since watching that game of maybe going with Calafiore and Ben White in the central of defense, as the two centre backs and Timber, just flip them around. Because the entire back four can play centre back and they can play full back. And I say this because Calafiore and Ben White didn't have bad games, by the way. I think they both played well. I think individually everybody had moments of struggling and moments of doing okay. The reason I think Ben White centrally and Calafiore centrally would have been better is because, first of all, they're both taller than the other two who played in the middle. But also, Ben White is coming back from an injury. He had played 90 minutes for the first time this season, as far as I can remember. If not for the first time, maybe the second time, right? He played a few days before that. Fullback is more demanding than centre back, just on the body. So I thought, okay, maybe Ben White should start centre back. This is definitely 2020 hindsight, by the way, like, quarterbacking. But during the day, I thought Timber, his physical preparedness for the season is a bit more ready to go up and down that flank. And him and Saka have been playing well together. So I was like, okay, maybe you can play Timber at right back. Ben White, he knows how to play centre back. Everybody is in a position that's comfortable, and Ben White is protected as well. He doesn't have to do a lot of one-on-one dueling and then have to go and attack. Let's be real. Arteta asks a lot of his fullbacks. He asks a lot. And so I'm not saying this because I think Ben White was horrible. I didn't think to ask him to start and play 90 minutes after he had given a big shift in the Brentford game. I thought it would have been better to play Ben White in the middle. For Calafiore, similar reasons. I think Calafiore, not because he's not ready to play left back, I think he was okay, actually. I just think Calafiore is more of a commanding presence, and Nkapie, he's a fighter. He does not run away from any battle, but I think he's also a bit more bombastic. I think we could have used that thrust because Villa were very pressy and very aggressive, and I like Calafiore's composure on the ball a bit better so far. Still learning about Nkapie. I still think I'm not going to go after any one of these boys at the back today, because I think they all had decent games. There were some errors here and there. And yes, the distances between our front line or midfield, the back line felt stretched. But I think some of that had a lot to do with Aston Villa. Aston Villa played, a cup final kind of game. And that's what they do. They really get after you. They do some shithousery too, like things like Emi Martinez, wasting time here and there, trying to frustrate. But then they go long and they have Ollie Watkins, they have Morgan Rogers, who can hold the ball, who can bring other people into play. Very skillful players, Tielemans. They played a good game, Villa. I think this game could have been won by either team. But I think if you want to use the word deserve to win, maybe Villa slightly deserved to win. I don't think Arsenal were bad on this day. I was really hurt, obviously, conceding in the 95th minute. The way the game ended, it sucked. And I just didn't want to watch. I didn't want to consume any football content. I didn't want to listen to anything because I know how reactive people are. And so many of my friends that I talk to already have been that way, talking about the manager and this and that, forgetting that Arsenal has won a lot of games since the beginning of the season. This is only their second loss in the season and first in 18 games. And yes, there are maybe 3 or so draws in that time. But most of those draws, happened at difficult grounds away from home. And so I think I don't want to make excuses. I've been talking about, if you've been listening to me before today, I've been saying Arteta needs to take some responsibility for for overusing players. I still stand by that, even though I don't think the players are at fault for this game, because I think the effort was good from the players. I'm not gonna, you know, shift. As I was watching the game, I was like, yeah, these guys, man, they're doing what they can. They're playing against the informed team. They've won 9 of the last 10 now, if you include this last result against Arsenal. They've won. They've won at home. We were the only team last season to go there and beat them. I think Aston Villa, um, you know, they are just a tough opponent. Sometimes you can lose to a good team, and it doesn't have to be a referendum on player X or the manager. Eze did have a bad day at the office, you know, but the North London derby was a different story, and players are human. This is the thing I was talking to a couple of my friends about, is that so much of football analysis right now is almost like we're looking for a perfect game, like, which doesn't exist. And of course, that gives us, people who like to talk about the game, something to talk about. But those of us who've also played and coached, that like nobody plays a perfect 90. If you look hard enough in any game, you're going to find something to whine about. But I think a lot of the time, the way the results goes, usually will lead to how much people highlight the things that didn't go well, right? So Eze had a shocking game. Mikel Merino, he he was probably just as bad as Eze, if not maybe slightly behind. Excuse me. Wow, yeah. So Eze struggled, Merino struggled. They come off at halftime. Trossard comes on, scores within the first 10 minutes of being on the pitch. Left the pitch again due to a minute's restriction. I know a couple of my friends were like, why did we bring on Trossard early if he's going to get injured? And he's not, from what I understand, he's not injured. He just had to come off because he was on the minute's restriction, and Arteta needed to use him. He says he decided to use him earlier rather than later. And so it came off, and then we conceded a last-minute goal, like literally the last kick of the game. And I don't want to say there's nothing to learn from this game. There's a lot to learn from this game, depending on which way you want to go. If you want to go on Arteta's selections and his usage of players, because for me, I don't think the game events themselves I can go at Arteta for. I think I can maybe question his underutilization of certain players, which then leads to some of the issues you have when some of these guys come in. They look lost, or they look like they need more in terms of game time, and they're not ready. And then you ask them to go perform in a big game. Like Winford again did not play. No God, this was a tighter game. But again, when you have backs against the wall, I think he's one of the better backs against the wall players we have in the squad, and he has experience. You know what I mean? Like when you don't have a lot of the ball, and like seriously, like if you don't trust this guy and you're using Declan Rice every minute of every game until he tells you he's feeling something on his Achilles or calf, then I don't feel sorry for you. Like, I'm sorry, I don't feel sorry for. That's why in my previous video I said Arsenal need to be a little bit more self-critical for some of the injury issues they have. I'm not saying everything is on the club, because the schedule is still crap. Two things can be true. The schedule can be really ridiculous, and as a club, you can still do some things to manage your resources, in this case, your players, better. Like, how many minutes has Ethan Nwaneri had in the last month? Lewis Skelly. They're both Premier League level players. Some guys have played against Arsenal that both of those kids can play against or can be competitive against. And so things like that, I'm sorry, I'm not going to make excuses for. I think I'm not Arteta out. I mean, those of you who have listened to me or talked to me about football, you know this too. So this is not even me saying the manager has to go, or, throwing my toys out the pram kind of thing here. This is me just saying you can't complain about a crazy, difficult schedule and then not do what you can to not overburden your players. Like, you just can't. You really can't. And now you're having to play Timber, at center back. And he could have get injured too. Like anyone, I know Mosquera's injury is not overuse. It's something else, maybe. I don't know what it is. But like, you can't, as a club, management team, coaching staff, all of that, not look at yourselves as far as these injuries go. And now, yes, you having to play in places like Villa Park, and the schedule is tough. In the last 5 games, Arsenal had to go to an informed Sunderland team that City are going to go to in January. They have, I think, 4 or so, or maybe more players who are going to AFCON. Minimum 4 of their players that play regularly. So, like, we play them at their place, and they have all their players. Your closest rival for the title is going to their place, and they're going to have like 4 or more players gone from going to AFCON. And the injuries, the performances, I think you can explain it, like, because Eze is not as bad as he was on that day. He switched off for the goal, but like, he's played a lot of minutes for Arsenal, and he's not used to playing 3 games every 7 days kind of thing. Not yet. This is new for him. So like, I feel for the guy. I know he gets paid a lot of money, as all these players do, but there's a human side to this too. The way we look at football sometimes, to me, is a bit too. It's almost like we're expecting these kids to be robots. Saka did okay. He had a decent game. He had some frustrating moments because sometimes he tries to do too much. I was happy to see Martin Odegaard. He's a bit of a ball stopper, but happy to see him back. He seems to be able to run around and look like himself. So happy to have that back. But now what that means is that we're gonna have to create room for him to play in the same team with some of our better players. And Madueke and Gyökeres, they didn't give us anything on the day, and they both could have had maybe an opportunity to score just before Villa scored the winner. If they maybe had made a different run for the Declan Rice cross. But I think Arsenal in general is the season is okay, man. Like, to have gone to all these places and still be sitting where we are, I think that's going to be okay. In my opinion, I think that's fine. Um, Bournemouth Chelsea was a close game. I think Chelsea dominated the ball, but didn't really create high XG chances or high value chances. Bournemouth had a goal by Semenyo ruled out by VAR. But there was not too much here. The only thing I would say here is that Chelsea have now not won in the last 3 games. And that is probably going to worry some Chelsea people. If you look at um like 2 draws and a loss, and they have Everton next, and Everton's playing well. They are now sitting in the top 6, and so Chelsea 0-0 draw away at Bournemouth. But again, this is the thing I was saying about, like, a lot of people reacting to this game were saying Maresca rotates too much. I can't. I guess you can't do anything perfect, can't please anyone if you're a manager. So I understand that, because like those of you, again, I said, I've been saying this. I think Arteta should use the squad a bit more. Maresca is. What's the difference in the teams? They're sitting close to each other. So like, maybe Arsenal might have dropped points more if they rotated more, but maybe they have a better health bill. I don't know, but I'd rather, at this point, to be honest, I'd rather have a good health bill and be a few points behind, sitting in third or fourth position, as long as our players are healthy going into like February, March, because that for me is when, like, you really go into winning time. You want to stay in touching distance, but be healthy. And I feel like my fear for Arsenal is that we've had too many injuries in the spring that cost. And so for me, and maybe this is a bias of mine that I need to own, I'm more concerned about the health. Because when Ateta has players, he knows how to use them. It's just, for me, like, can you then just give other people a chance? Can you stop riding the hot hand a bit too much? That's my frustration as an Arsenal fan. But we go here, sorry. Um, Everton 3-0 against Nottingham Forest. Forest they look better with Sean Dyche taking over from what they were under Ange. They've had some good results. They are definitely going to be in this relegation slog. they're definitely going to be in the relegation slog, and I think it's going to be a very, very, very tight one for the relegation teams, because when you think about West Ham being there with Nuno, and who else is there? Hold on, let me have a quick look. Burnley and Wolves look at the moment like they're going to go back down, which means one promoted team looks for sure to go down, and one team that's been in the league for a while to maybe go down, right? But then you have West Ham, Nottingham Forest, Leeds, Fulham, Brentford. I think Bournemouth will be fine. But from number 14 to 17, that conversation is going to have to be changing probably week to week to week. All of those teams are going to be looking at each other's results, because Forest have won 3 of their last 5, but they've lost 2. And then Leeds, they've they lost 3 of the first 3 games in the last 5 games, and then they won and drew the last 2. And so like the form table is looking a bit, like, whoa, we're gonna have some trouble here. So Man City made easy work of Sunderland, I hate to say. They looking good. They're looking good. After looking shaky the previous 2 games and winning by a narrow margin, both those games against Leeds and Fulham could have been draws. But City are doing what you need to do right now. They're doing the Villa thing, where they get the big moments right, just enough to beat their opponent, which is it's all you can ask. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not gonna be sitting here hating. Like, they're doing what they need to do. They are on a winning streak of 3 now. They play Palace next. Their last loss was at Newcastle, and before that it was Villa, but they've just been putting together some wins. And now all of a sudden they're on the same win numbers at Arsenal and 2 points behind. Goal difference the same. So, City is City. They're going to do what they need to do. I'm not worried about them. As I'm more worried about Arsenal doing what they need to do. City will be there, not making it easy for you, but you have to find a way. And Arsenal have some games coming up, I think, that are going to be helpful, hopefully, if they do what they need to do at home, because they've been good at home. Newcastle beat Burnley 2-1. They've been a bit indifferent to start the season, Newcastle, but that's now has them at 11th position, but it's tight here for points, from 11th until all the way, to be honest, to number 4. There's like 4 points difference. And if you want to add number 13, there's 6 points from number 13 to number 4. 6 points. That's it. So, only 3 teams have hit the 30-point mark. And that's like, this is slow going, which kind of confirms what I was saying in my view. And maybe somebody's going to do a madness and just run away with it in the spring. But I've been saying this for a while, that I don't think there's a team that's going to crack the 90 points this year. Because the rest of the teams, these teams over here, they're all good and they can beat anyone on any day. So any of these top 3 teams here, they can get it from any one of these other guys on any given day. Like Villa, for example, like they play West Ham next. They're favored to win that game, but I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't win that game. Like Arsenal, Wolves, okay, that's as sure thing as it can get, and maybe this comes back and haunt me, but I think Arsenal should be fine against Wolves and the couple of home games that they have. But after that, it gets a little harder again, because you're facing Aston Villa again. And what other results were really interesting here? Like Tottenham, Brentford, 2-0. This was the result that really like shook me. Liverpool, Salah, I don't know what's going on there. Arne Slot and Mo Salah's public dispute is Salah's made it public. Slot has been, very professional about it. But Mo Salah does this thing. He did it a few times when Klopp was the manager too. Like he does the thing sometimes where he just goes rogue with his mouth. He'll go to the mixer, and But what disappoints me about Mo, I love Mo Salah. I'm not a Liverpool fan clearly, and most people know this, but I love Mo Salah. However, my issue with him, when the team has a difficult time and they're not winning and they're on streak of not winning, he doesn't come out and give interviews, for example, right? He's nowhere to be found. They send Curtis Jones or Virgil van Dijk will front up. He will front up and go and face the music. Salah will have an outburst in the media when he is feeling like he is not getting game time or he's not happy about something, contract, whatever it is. Like that's annoying. Like that part of him, the way he manages his communication is disappointing because like he's a legend of the game, Mo. He's a legend of the game. And I think fans in Liverpool and outside of that town, city, they know that. Like he's an all-timer in the Premier League and in the, African players of all time. Mo Salah will be part of that conversation for definitely for as long as I live. I think it's really disappointing how he did that, but he's also somebody who's known to do that. So there we go. And Liverpool drew from having led 2-0. Leeds came back. The first half was a bit quiet. I mean, there was action, but like quiet in terms of goals. And Liverpool, boom, boom, first 5 minutes of the second half, they 2-0 up. And I was like, okay, this is it. They're purring, they're feeling themselves. And, they're playing all the athletes. That kid was not an athlete and what a player. He was playing on the right flank in the Salah position in this game. They had Joe Gomez behind him, and Florian Wirtz starting to feel a bit more like Florian Wirtz. I think he's been playing okay, just not getting the rub of the green when it comes to output. But I think that'll come. He's too good a talent to not come through and be at least playable and like successful, in the Premier League. He may not, maybe. I think this is the difficulty when you are Liverpool. When you've had forwards like Sadio Mane and you've hit on the Luis Diaz and you hit on Salah, you hit on Firmino, like you hit so long in the last like 10 or so years, and you had these guys who were there that you can bet other people in. This is like the biggest revamp that they've had to do, I think, up front especially. Um, because even Darwin and them, they were arriving with other people who knew how to play for Liverpool, like Jota, who was there, and so like a lot of these guys were being added, but this one is like like a proper facelift, right? So I think they're going to figure it out. I've been saying that. I've been consistent in saying that. I think I've always thought Liverpool could benefit from having a number six, but they have good players and they'll be fine. But I'm going to praise Leeds more than I'm going to make this about Liverpool because, like I've been saying, the Premier League is getting stronger and stronger, and teams are not scared. They will fight you, especially when you come to their house. They will fight you, and Leeds fought until the death, basically, and they equalized, and they will feel that they were worthy of their point in this game. So that was probably one of the best games to watch. It was epic, that second half. For me, it was my favorite game on Saturday. It didn't start like that, but because of the second half, and it was the end of the game, and yes, it meant also and like a title rival didn't get 3 points. So I still think Liverpool are in this race since no one is running away with it. I think Liverpool are still in it. I don't know if they will couldn't be consistent enough to win it, but I don't think Aston Villa, for example, if Aston Villa are in the title race, let's say, right? Because that's what a lot of people are saying. And rightfully, Aston Villa are good and they have a great manager who I think is a great manager. I don't like the whole thing every time Arsenal play against their team that people make a big thing about Arsenal, if they kept him, da da da, he might have won the league or something else already. Maybe. It was just not a good fit. And that's where I leave it. I think when Emery still a great manager, I nothing against him, no bad words. But if Aston Villa are in the title race, I'm gonna say Liverpool, I might be, I might have to eat my words here, but my belief is that Liverpool will finish above Aston Villa when it's all said and done. So then, by that, I think Liverpool are also in this race because there's 23 games to play. And guys, don't ever admit, in my opinion, I don't ever want to dismiss a champion. I'm sorry. This is something that I've learned over time. These guys have done it. Manchester City, for example, like right, they have champions in that team. They have a lot of new kids who are learning how to win, but they have champions in that team. We Arsenal don't. So like that's why for me, I don't like the dismissing of teams that have done it. I think we're good. I think we're better. Um, I think we're better equipped, especially when we have our players available. I just don't know if our players will be available. That's the concerning thing. That's why I prefer health at the moment than a lead in the Premier League table. But the other couple games, Edin Ketia got himself a goal in a good win for Palace, and Mokgehi scored at the death. The legs, those boys were tired at the end of that game. Fulham played well. Great goal by Harry Wilson. Oh, if you haven't seen that goal, guys, go and see that goal. It's an Arsene Wenger type goal. I'm sorry for putting Arsenal onto it, but wow, that was a beautiful goal. A goal worthy of being in the team that wins the game, if not least not lose the game. Um, but yeah, Fulham are having some troubles, and that's going to be interesting for them. And but they still, kind of like mid-table-ish, so they'll be fine. And like I just think sometimes you play teams that are on form, and Crystal Palace are that team who have started the season incredibly well drilled, and they know how to close teams down. I think defensively they're as good as it gets in the Premier League defensively. And then they know also how to go the other way rapidly and get something, And so it's a well constructed team, Crystal Palace. I give them that, and they were worthy of their win. And West Ham, they were unlucky. I think they showed some fight. I think they were slightly better than Brighton in this game. They could have gotten themselves a 1-0 win here, and unfortunately they didn't. But good team with team performance. Nuno is starting to work his thing there, and the team is starting to show. It's starting to show. And so speaking of schedules, right? Like so, Arsenal have had like three tough away games in the last. Excuse me, three tough away games in the last 5 games. Now this is their chance to really make sure that because they're gonna get now in the Premier League. This is the Champions League away, and I would hope that they make some changes here. I think they really would benefit from using the squad's depth here. And then Wolves, you can even still give some of the guys who had minutes here some games there, and then you can, because you're going to have 2 games in 3 days here, with Crystal Palace in the League Cup and Everton, both really good teams. So I would use the so-called B team here and have Declan Rice not play one of these games and maybe play 30 minutes both games. You know what I mean? Like 30 minutes for both as a sub or something. I don't think Zubimendi the same. I think you should really watch out for getting guys in the red zone. It's going to be a tough schedule, but like find a way, find a way. And then you have Crystal Palace in the League Cup. I would want to again here like play a rotated team, like go strong at Everton and then rotate at Palace. If you lose, you lose. Like it's a League Cup. Nobody's gonna be saying you did great by winning the League Cup. If you do win it, and if you get out of it, save yourself a couple more games in January. Like I want the trophy, but at what cost is also something I would consider with the League Cup. Then you have Brighton. They're good, but it's at home. Villa, we know about them. They just beat us, but it's at home. Then you go away to Bournemouth in the new year, so on January 3. So and then you have Liverpool for a couple like 4 days after that. So but they're coming to the Emirates too. So like I think the schedule is starting to take shape, but at the same time now Arsenal, like I'm much more understanding of these away games because teams now are really strong. The fans make it hostile. It's really difficult to win a game at home in the Premier League, much less away. So I get it. And Arsenal have been playing a lot of teams that are in form as you go to them. Like when we played at Sunderland, they were fourth, right? And they were in a hot streak, and now they're like eighth, which is not too bad, by the way, because like there's much point differential between fourth and eighth, from what I've been able to see anyway. So, and then you have Everton coming up again, another team that's in good form, and you play Villa like just now. They are top three, best form in the league. As you see them, you run into teams sometimes that are hot. So we go home. I can accept, not winning the games and whatever. Hopefully draw, but sometimes you're going to lose a football match. But anyway, guys, I think this was a good wake up call for the Arsenal boys. In that, like, I don't want to say they needed a wake up call, but I think that when I say the Arsenal boys, I mean also Ateta and all of them. I think sometimes not losing games can make you feel stronger than you really are, but you've lost 4 points if you draw two games. So it's better to lose one game than draw two. Not that lose. I don't prefer a loss ever. However, when you drop points and not lose the game, sometimes it can lull you into a false sense of things are good. And I know players will speak the right way in the media, and coaches will speak the right way in the media. But I think something happens when you haven't lost the game. You know what I mean? Because then you lose a game after 18, and that's the first thing Arteta says. We haven't lost the game in 18, which is true. But Man City have lost more games than you, and they're only 2 points behind because of the draws. So that's the thing I'm trying to say. Anyway, I'm gonna cut this one here. I'll talk to you on the next one. Please support, like, share, subscribe, all that beautiful stuff that podcasters tend to ask from supporters and subscribers. Salute.